Hi, I'm Lori Grunin, Senior Editor for CNET, and this is the Fujifilm FinePix X10. The X10 represents Fujifilm's first serious entry into the enthusiast compact market, going up against stalwarts from Canon, Nikon, and Panasonic, as well as newcomers like Olympus. I really like the design overall, both aesthetically and for shooting. The body has a magnesium alloy chassis and an aluminum front, and it obviously takes after its more expensive sibling in the looks department. It's retro all the way. But don't look for the X100's hybrid viewfinder. This is a plain old straight-through version like the one on the G12 and P7100. Surprisingly, I didn't use it all that much, in part because it's really difficult to frame scenes using these types of viewfinders with zoom lenses, but mostly because I had no problem viewing the LCD in bright sunlight. While Canon and Olympus take the approach of using a ring on the dial for adjusting settings, Fujifilm uses the lens ring to power on and manually zoom. I like that there are focal length indicators on the barrel, and the zoom has a good feel. It's not too tight and not too loose. The grip is small, but in combination with the rubber thumb rest, it proves sufficient for single-handed shooting. Like the G12 and P7100, the X10 has an exposure compensation dial. The mode dial has the usual array of auto, manual, and semi-manual shooting modes, plus 2 custom setting slots. There's also an advanced shooting mode with 3 multi-shot options. Pro Low Light combines 4 shots to improve noise in low light, and Pro Focus combines up to 3 shots to perform what other cameras call background defocus. Motion Panorama 360 is one of those panorama modes where you pan the camera while holding down the shutter button, a la Sony's Sweep Panorama. There are also a few automatic 6 megapixel or lower modes: EXR resolution priority, high ISO and low noise, and derange priority modes. On the back you'll find the usual array of buttons and dials, including a raw override button. The navigation dial is a little loose, and its associated buttons, macro, drive, flash, and self-timer, feel a bit too flat to use without deliberation. All the important shooting options are directly accessible via buttons, except perhaps ISO sensitivity, and you can program the function button for that, though it feels really tiny. All of that's good because the menu system's straightforward but fairly tedious. There are 2 top-level menus, but you have to scroll through multiple pages within their extremely granular submenus. As for image quality, the camera's capable of producing some very nice photos, but it does its best low light work in its special reduced resolution, completely auto modes. In its manual shooting modes, the X10 delivers mixed results. At low ISO sensitivities, you end up with grainier photos than most, but without the concomitant loss of sharpness. As long as you don't have too much detail in the photos, the JPEG quality up to ISO 1600 isn't bad. You really do have to shoot RAW for any sort of color accuracy, though. I was able to get photos that I liked from the X10, but the photos generally just have too many issues. The colors are pleasing if oversaturated, and the exposure generally looks great in a variety of lighting situations. But the lack of a neutral color profile and oversaturated defaults resulted in completely blown out hues in some cases. I ran into a few situations where it simply couldn't lock focus, for no apparent reason, and no matter what I tried. And then eventually something worked. Aside from the autofocus, the battery life is also a disappointment. The X10's fast and pretty enjoyable to shoot, but to get the best photo quality you have to shoot in the automatic modes, which runs counter to the idea of an enthusiast camera. And yet even in the auto modes it's too complicated to recommend to snap shooters who just want better photo quality. Plus, the quality and autofocus are a bit too inconsistent. I'm Lori Grunin, and this is the Fujifilm FinePix X10.